Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. We know that within the next few months, roughly speaking, we are going to see a final decision from Judge Torres in the SEC v. Ripple case, and as a result of that, because we know it's coming, and it could be any day. I mean, you could say imminent, I suppose, but there's broad discussion within our community. Is this going to result in the price of XRP absolutely skyrocketing? Now, of course, as you well know, when we got legal clarity for XRP on XRP Victory Day, July 13th, 2023, coming up soon on the one-year anniversary, by the way. When that happened, as you well know, yeah, fine, price doubled in a matter of several hours, but that was it. We didn't even hit a buck. Now, this time is different. There are some key things that you may have already thought up on your own. But what are the odds this thing's actually going to go? I'm going to share with you my thoughts on this, and I think I have a pretty well thought out and persuasive position, so I'm going to do my best to persuade you, even if you disagree with me right now. I'm going to do my best to try and persuade you that I am correct. If you don't find my arguments persuasive, that's fine. We don't have to agree to be friends. But I would be curious as to what you think I'm missing and what I got wrong. Here is a headline a couple days ago from the Crypto Basic. Ex-Ripple director explains why XRP price cannot move. And they're recovering perspective from Sean McBride, again, a former Ripple employee, also formerly with Google and Amazon. And so somebody in their community named Johnny wrote to him and said, with all the positive news about XRP lately, in your opinion, why has it dipped instead of gaining value? And here is what former Ripple employee Sean McBride had to say. And mind you, he is a mega XRP bull. And despite no longer being at Ripple, he is still very pro-Ripple. And so anyway, he said the following. I think I've mentioned this before. Nothing significant is going to happen with the price of XRP until Judge Torres makes her decision. So anyone expecting anything different is delusional. So I'll just pause to say here, I must be delusional then. I'll circle back to my thoughts in a second, but I guess that means that I am delusional because I respectfully disagree and have a different opinion. Anyway, he continues. The next big piece of this is clear legislation in the U.S. Hopefully that is on the way with the recent developments in Congress and Trump's commitment to crypto, assuming he becomes president. Once Torres makes her decision, I think we find out a bit more about what's actually behind the curtain. This could open up the door for U.S. institutions working with Ripple to flip the switch. We will just have to wait and see if that's the case. I don't know why they would waste their time obtaining most of the MTLs, money transmitter licenses, over 40, needed to operate payments in the U.S. Yeah, and so just to be clear also, we do already know that on-demand liquidity is alive in the United States. It's just that they're using a stable coin instead of XRP because there's not sufficient clarity. And that could actually get cleared up in theory. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it could get cleared up in the remedies portion of this lawsuit. Or it could go the other way too, and I've talked about that a little bit. But you know, sure, if that's sufficiently cleared up, there could be more entities out there in the United States that would be more enticed. Fair enough, but I still think that you know, we're over the worst of this. XRP is still being used as a bridge currency throughout the rest of the world. All the other corridors, the rest of the world that don't touch the United States, they are using XRP, and Ripple has every incentive under the sun to continue having XRP as the go-to asset for liquidity. I don't think there's any reason that it would make sense for Ripple to change that. So I don't even fear. But that being said, there's still this question of, okay, when we get this clarity, what's that going to mean for XRP? And so I wrote this post yesterday. I said, and this is a social media platform X. I said, I'm not saying XRP price won't run when the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit ends. I'm just saying if that happens, it's completely irrational, as XRP already has legal clarity and has for almost a full year now. However the lawsuit concludes, it doesn't matter to your everyday XRP holder. Okay, and so that's a pretty simple statement right there. Can certainly flesh it out, because what I just read there, I've said things almost exactly like that, or exactly like that, a number of times in recent weeks and months even. But I want to flesh this out a little bit further, because there are some people who had some thoughtful responses to what I posted there. And so I took that as an opportunity to expand further on my thoughts. And so there is this post from XRP community member named Elmer Bratz, or Bratz, I might be saying that wrong. And he wrote to me and he said, I slightly disagree on this point. While XRP has legal clarity, Ripple's use case or utility for using XRP in the restructured contracts will be ruled on. If the contracts where they are using Tether are deemed okay, they will be able to substitute XRP in its place. I actually think this is a pretty big ruling for XRP's utility in the States, unless I am misunderstanding something, which is entirely possible. And so I thought that was a fair response, and I wanted to share some additional thoughts, so I wrote the following to him. Right now, XRP is not being used in ODL in any corridor touching the United States. It is being used in every other corridor throughout the world. If, hypothetically, XRP could never be used in a United States corridor as a result of the Torres ruling, that will have roughly zero impact on the long-term viability of XRP. There is so much more to the entire XRP ledger ecosystem. So if the market doesn't understand that and price shoots up or down based on the ruling, so be it. But that will be irrational behavior. Also, to be clear, XRP being used in ODL in non-US corridors will not be impacted no matter how Judge Torres rules. So folks, XRP will continue to be the primary bridge currency, regardless of this ruling. And I acknowledge, look, if XRP runs based on good news, perceived good news in this ruling in the remedies portion here, okay. But I don't think that makes rational sense. And I think that it's very clear there are a lot of people that perhaps haven't sufficiently thought this through, or maybe don't understand exactly what has been ruled upon by Judge Torres to a sufficient level anyway. I think we all get the basics. Yeah, XRP has legal clarity here. But I acknowledge it, because if you're in a bull market, which we are in, despite what's happened in terms of volatility the last few days, or you could even say months as we've been range bound, set that aside. We're in a bull market. I think that's very obvious. And so you can have moments where markets get hot, and then any sort of news happens. And even if it's not something that actually matters that much, it can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, as they say. That can happen. And so that's why I said, I acknowledge it could cause the price of XRP to run. I just don't think that that's rational. And I also mentioned recently that there's a reason that purchasing index funds is a good idea when it comes to retirement, just like boring old ETFs that track the S&P 500, stuff like that. Because then you get broad exposure, and then rather than you trying to be a stock picker as if you're actually going to beat the market, you don't have to worry about that, because you take the combined wisdom of the market and slap it all together, and there it is. And you do find inefficiencies in markets, and you do find poor decisions being made in markets in certain instances. But that's why if you have a broad exposure to a market, it kind of evens out in a certain way. Some companies fail, some don't. Some people, if you don't have you don't know exactly what's happening behind the scenes, even though there are certain requirements in terms of disclosures that the SEC requires, that can happen. And so the reason that I mention that now is because I understand that despite that being the case, when it comes to an individual cryptocurrency like XRP, people can just be wrong, and then it can still go a way that doesn't make logical sense. And so I'm just saying, in my humble opinion, if it does run on perceived good news, it doesn't make sense. XRP is not going away. I mean, look at all the stuff that's been happening outside of this. I've been talking about this. I mean, the stablecoin, Ripple stablecoin, the automated market maker. This is all going to help with total value locked. There's the XRP Ledger EVM sidechain. That's going to bring way more activity to the XRP Ledger. There's so much news, positive news that has happened over the last few days. And so to understand that, and to understand that total value locked is a major driver in price appreciation for any coin that's attached to a blockchain, to understand all of that and look at the wallet increases steadily over a span of years, to see all that, and XRP still in the top 10 coins by market cap, but to still think that even if XRP can never be used in a corridor of ODL that touches the United States, that's a problem? You gotta be kidding me. That does not make sense. This is, and if the XRP ecosystem is that fragile, then if I believe that, I'd get the hell out of it. If it's so fragile that XRP could even be used everywhere else on the planet, but it can't here because the whole market's going to fall apart, I'm out if I actually believe that. But I don't believe that because that doesn't make any damn sense. Hell, I would say this, even if we get bad news for Ripple on this, and that is indeed the case, and say the price of XRP actually goes down, which in theory is possible, I mean, if it goes low enough, I'd be enticed to buy XRP again, honestly. And I haven't bought it in almost 4 years because I stacked way too much of it, and I decided I had a problem, and I had to stop. Because it's still my largest individual position, even after years of accumulating other stuff. It's still that big. And I'm happy for that, by the way. But even if that happened, I'm just saying, it doesn't mean the end of XRP. There's too much stuff out there, too many people building things. Clearly, the market has spoken. It makes sense. So if there are enough people in the short term to drive it down, fine. There are also enough people like me that will disagree with you respectfully. That just doesn't make sense. So I'm worried about that personally. And then was there another response in this thread? I thought there was. Let me go back here. Maybe there was. Oh yeah, here it is. It's right here. I don't know why it wasn't showing up a second ago. So, why didn't that show up? That's weird. Or is it just down further? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it's right here. So anyway, here's what Elmer said in response to me. He said, "That is correct, and I know Ripple is just part of the ecosystem, but they are a massive part of the ecosystem. If they are allowed to use XRP in corridors touching the U.S., I just feel like they could unleash the beast then with no restrictions." And so, I understand what he's saying there, but think about what I was saying a second ago. Yeah, I would agree. Ripple's a massive part of the XRP ecosystem, even though the ecosystem is rather large. But within what Ripple's doing, XRP not being used in corridors, in ODL that touch the United States, if that's the case, I don't think it matters. I really don't. It matters in that I don't want something bad to happen in the XRP ecosystem, but in terms of, is this something that is going to wreck us in some sort of notable way, I just don't buy it. And so anyway, I responded to him and I said, your position is reasonable, but I'm not convinced of that. Ripple has acknowledged that ODL transactions have net zero effect on price anyway. Maybe some market makers will not hold XRP for ODL purposes in the US that otherwise would have. But even if so, I don't have reason to believe that would have some serious impact on price. I'd need data to sway me on that point. And so, folks, for those of you that don't know, it is worth being aware of this, and Ripple has acknowledged this. On-demand liquidity transactions utilizing XRP as a bridge currency do not have an impact on the price of XRP. They are net zero. They're just right there. It just stays stable. And why? Well, because, people mistakenly think, well, if the XRP is being used for ODL, think about how many people are buying, so many more institutions and people buying XRP, right? Well, if you're talking about specifically the flows for on-demand liquidity, yeah. If you open up way more corridors, way more buyers. Now think about that for 5 more seconds. What happens at the other end of that transaction? An immediate sell. As soon as as soon as settlement occurs, 3 to 5 seconds later, it's immediately sold. So you have a buy on one side and a sell on the other side of that transaction in a different geographic region, and they're the same. They're of the same value, the same price. That means it doesn't change the price. And the reason it doesn't, because there is more buying on one side than the other. So what happens is, if you can buy XRP cheaper in one geographic region than another, people do notice that. People have written bots, algorithms that catch this stuff automatically. And what happens is, as soon as there's a tiny disparity, somebody's going to purchase that XRP cheap, move it to the geographic region where there's more demand for it, and then they're going to sell it there for a premium. But what happens ultimately is the price evens out as a result of that. It's called arbitrage. So that literally doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So, if you're talking about more market makers holding XRP that otherwise wouldn't, okay. Sure. So there would be some. I'll grant that. I'll cede that point. But to what degree? And that's why I said here, I need data to sway me on that point. because I don't have a reason to believe that that would have some sort of serious impact on price. Certainly not anytime soon, anyway. But these transactions are just so damn fast, it doesn't matter. And so that's not to crap on XRP as a bridge currency. No. I've held this perspective since shortly after jumping into crypto. Like I think I had pretty well figured this out by early 2018, after being in the community for like, I don't know, a month and a half. I was like, wait a minute. But I didn't see this as a negative ever, because if a cryptocurrency is functionally useful, and as more people diversify into crypto, if they know that cryptocurrency is useful, it's not likely to go away. That will make people more likely to purchase it. And then XRP is good for payments, broadly speaking, anyway. And there's a really huge, healthy ecosystem in XRP, in the XRP ledger. So on-demand liquidity, unquestionably a net plus. I would say it's a factor, one of many factors in a broad, healthy ecosystem that can help over the long haul to drive price. That said, not because of the individual transactions. The individual transactions on any given moment are net zero. They don't do anything in terms of moving the price, but that's okay. I've known this since I think the beginning of 2018 is when I figured this out. I remember having discussions on Twitter at the time. I then wrote, I've always viewed the prospect of XRP as a bridge currency as something that helps to ensure the long-term viability of XRP. After all, if businesses need it to conduct transactions, it's not likely to go away because that's real utility. I believe that is one thing that will make it more likely speculators will be interested in purchasing XRP, though I maintain it's more about the overall health of the entire XRP ecosystem. Every developer matters, not just Ripple. Then there was also this. Somebody named Dan Thurman wrote to me and said, the remaining issue is the largest one. It determines clarity for how financial institutions are able to buy and sell XRP, which in turn means if they are able to use it. The largest money is still on the sidelines because of a lack of clarity for whether financial institutions can buy in large quantities direct from Ripple, the single largest holder of XRP. Excuse me. These institutions aren't going to go to the open market and pick off 10,000 blocks of XRP from retail. They are looking for direct access to large blocks. Just because XRP itself has legal clarity as a non-security doesn't mean financial institutions have legal clarity on their end for usage. The ruling only provided a one-way street for third-party blind buy/sell orders, basically only for retail and small enterprise. And so I can see that he put some time thinking that through, and I certainly respect that. But I think I know that based on that response, there's some key pieces of information that he was unaware of about how crypto markets, broadly speaking, function. And so I was filling in some blanks for him effectively here. And this is interesting stuff. If you're not aware of this, check this out. So I responded to him and I said, you're mistaken on your point about financial institutions not being able to buy large quantities of XRP without Ripple. XRP is one of the most liquid cryptocurrencies in existence, and large purchases can and are made OTC, which means over the counter. And so I'll just pause to note in case anybody's out there is not aware of what this means. The over-the-counter purchasing process, this is what MicroStrategy did. They did it with Bitcoin. You know, Michael Saylor, the Bitcoin maxi out there, has some wacky opinions on some things, but he certainly purchased Bitcoin the right way. And he may have done it, I'm pulling from memory here because he was talking about this years ago. He might have done through Coinbase, maybe all of it through Coinbase, but he was able to buy absurd, I can't remember what the first tranche of his purchases was. I don't know if it's tens of thousands of Bitcoin or 100,000, but whatever it was, he purchased enough that at that point in time, if he was just hopping on an exchange, his company, and they were just buying that Bitcoin, it would have moved the market immediately. But they bought it over the counter, and so that just means that they purchased it from exchanges. And by the way, anybody can do this. Like if you have a large enough purchase, and different exchanges have different thresholds, whether it's $10,000 or $100,000, if you're going to plop that down, go to the exchange, and they'll help you to take care of that. And you won't move the market. And the reason you won't move the market is because it doesn't show up in the order books. These are transactions that are done behind the scenes. Nobody knows that they're happening in that moment. And that's why the way that it'll hit the market in terms of supply and demand dynamics, it's not seen immediately. Now, it will still have an impact playing out. I mean, if that's off the market forever and it's never sold ever again, yeah, that matters. But it's not noticed right away. if it's just coming from like Coinbase, for example. And so if Coinbase then has to stock up, maybe they'll do that. They'll be like, oh, we're getting low. Well, we'll buy half a year later. And so you can get these gaps. And so that's why immediately you don't see it. You just don't. So that's why you do that. But my point in mentioning all this is to say you can do this with pretty much any cryptocurrency. I mean, maybe there's some no-name ones where you can't, but pick a large cap coin, yeah, you can do it with ETH, you can do it with XRP, you name it. And there's so much XRP out there, circulating supply something like 55 billion. Yeah, there are some really big names in crypto that will be happy to sell you all the XRP you want over the counter, and the market won't even know you're doing it. The market won't know you're buying it, not immediately anyway. And so you can do that. And so that's why if Ripple ceased to exist, it would not impede the ability of any financial institution to purchase large quantities of XRP behind the scenes over the counter. Of that, I'm certain. That is not that's absolute certainty. And so that's why, nothing against the guy. I appreciate that he was sharing some thoughts. But he is incorrect on this. Just from a factual base, that is not correct. That is not a concern. Anyway, and then I wrote, no need for these institutions to buy small 10,000 quantities from retail as you cited. XRP has sufficient regulatory clarity for both retailers and institutions. The small question that specifically pertains to Ripple's transactions is of no consequence to almost anyone else on the planet. Even their ODL customers won't care since other coins can be used instead of XRP. And so look, Ripple has every incentive under the sun to continue using XRP as a bridge currency because they want to continue to push its use. And so they will. Of course they will. But if they can't use it in a specific corridor, then they'll use a different coin. And to any of their customers tapping into the liquidity, they don't care if it's XRP or a stable coin or anything. And I talked about this literally years ago before, back in the day when only XRP was used. Brad Garlinghouse publicly said, look, if there were, and this is before the lawsuit happened, by the way, Brad Garlinghouse publicly stated that if there were ever a liquidity issue in a specific corridor with XRP where it couldn't be used as a bridge, we may use a different coin, or if there's some sort of regulatory issue in a specific region under those circumstances, yeah, we could end up using a different coin, but it hasn't happened yet. And so now it has happened. But the point is, for any of their customers, it doesn't matter. For the financial institutions, they won't care. They just want the flows to happen. They want the instant settlement. That's what they want. So they're still going to get that either way. But yes, XRP will always be the primary coin in on-demand liquidity. Not disputing that. It's just that maybe it's only going to be, if things go poorly, it's only going to be in other countries, other geographic regions that don't touch the United States. And if that happens, XRP is going to be fine. So the market will react how the market reacts. And I acknowledge it's possible it could run. I'm just saying again, if XRP runs based on perceived good news, I will say that day, I'm very happy this happened, and this is completely irrational, but please keep doing it, right? That will be my basic message, for sure. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.